Okay, so that door is in, and the lever is in. So what you do is you add a task, and then you can just link it to anything on this list. And if you push capital P, it'll give any dwarf that's free will come over and pull the lever. So we want door, and then it will list all the dwarves in the fortress, all the doors in the fortress, doors fortress. And there are a lot of doors. Oh, there it is. Boop. Boop, boop. All right. So mechanic will do that when he gets a chance. And that means that I can start putting in some traps. Stonefall's the easiest. It's just a trap that's rigged up to drop a big rock on someone when they walk under it. And generally, you want to put your traps where enemies are going to be moving. So if an enemy is coming in, if they're coming up from the top, they're going to come around this way and go in here. But since I'm going to extend this wall out, the shortest path through here is going to be along the inside, and so they're going to come through like this most likely. And so I'm mostly stacking them up on this corner. In fact, do I have enough blocks to make this wall a little longer? There's a tree in the way. Okay, that's fine. But I want that door to be in there so that my doors, like I said, don't have to walk over those constantly, because I'm like not 100% on this, but I believe they can set off traps accidentally. So it's nice to have little alternate exits. And I should probably put some statues or something up too, so that nothing is tempted to destroy those. What is statue? What's the hotkey for statue? Where are you, statue? S? Really? Okay. So I'll make some statues. I really need to put a hotkey to my workshops because I keep accidentally pressing 2. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go 2. Bam. Make my thing 3. Bam. Alright, that's better. I lost my train of thought. What was I doing? Is this linked? Yep. So it is closed. So I'm going to have someone pull it. P, it'll do that. It'll be open. Completely lost my train of thought. God love Dwarf Fortress. Go and have to do blocks. Oh, I need more bins. Definitely need more bins. Bins are your friend. I need to make sure things are using bins also. Yes, you have bins. You may use bins. You may use bins. Please use bins. Okay. Then I guess we'll put in those workshops I've laid out now. So loom goes down here, and a loom is where dwarves process things that can be thread into thread. Clothier shop is where they take that thread and turn it into things made of cloth. And the dyer shop is where dwarves can dye either cloth or thread to be colors. And I need barrels. Okay. I'll take off a couple of these, make some barrels. And up here we're going to have a tannery, which is where dwarves take skin and turn it into leather, and then a leather's workshop where they take the leather and turn it into things. You can make leather and cloth have a lot of overlap in what they can make. You can make a lot of like little storage things like bags and backpacks and stuff, and a lot of clothing out of both, but leather, you have to use leather for things like quivers and leather armor and leather shields and stuff like that. But a lot of them have overlap, like I said, for clothes and whatnot. All right, and then we want an ashery, and an ashery is where you take, need more barrels, all right. Ashery is where you take ash and you can turn it into other things, including lye, which is why I'm going to put it next to the soap maker shop, because that's mainly what I'm going to be using the lye for. I believe you can also use ash to make fertilizer, but I've never really bothered much with fertilizer, so I would have to look into that. It's not necessary the way the game is set up right now, though, I don't believe. Alright, they're starting to use bins. Great. I love bins. Bins just allow a dwarf to put multiple things of the stockpile in the same slot, which saves tons of space. So that's great. I should put in my plots now I think about it. Leather. And since my big stockpile down where my jeweler shop is has finished goods in it, they will put finished clothing in there rather than in these stockpiles, which is what I want. Did I put them in? Did I swap the places? I'm so silly. All right. I guess I could very well just keep the finished goods made out of those things, which you can do. You can determine like what materials of finished goods can be somewhere if I wanted to, but you can't really do anything with clothes once they're made, really. You can't really dye them, so I think it's fine to just throw them in the pile. So what I would do if I wanted to have clothes in here is I would do I would just get rid of everything but the types of cloth. I think there's plant cloth, there's or you could just do like the footwear, headwear stuff, but you would want just the cloth stuff. Yeah, cloth and silk I think would be what you would want, but I don't, so there. I just want them to keep the threads and the cloth in here, and then the leather and skins in here, actually. So what I can do is I believe... how do you do skin? I'm not going to bother. Not going to bother. Because I forget how to do it. If I ever knew how. Skin is pretty light, though, so they can just run it down from the butcher shop. It's not a big deal. Should probably make some more bolts for my hunter. Might as well. Make him some cheap bolts, because he's using steel bolts, which are way too nice for hunting. Wood bolts suck, but they're good for training and hunting, I guess. Because most animals aren't so tough that you can't still kill them with wood bolts. Big stretch. Alright. Got some tables. Still smoothing those out. Oh, right, the hospital. This is how I usually play Dwarf Fortress, is really like jumping around between everything and like starting one thing and not finishing it later. And I realize that's kind of bad for like a guide sort of thing. But on the flip side, I think basically at this point, this guide is just me playing and explaining everything I'm doing rather than me specifically trying to make something that is a guide. Because, like I said at the beginning, I think you just kind of learn Dwarf Fortress one piece at a time rather than from a guide. I mean, early on, you kind of have to use a guide to figure out what's going on at all, but once you kind of have a basic idea, then it's just adding things one at a time. But anyway, I need to make a traction bench for my hospital, and you make that at the mechanic workshop, which I was hovering over. I actually want the tables to be closer to the bed so that the doctors don't have to move the dwarfs around too much. Give them a couple coffers. There you go. Actually, I'm going to move that table because I don't want it to be right next to the coffer. Even though probably it should be, but whatever. Luckily, we haven't had any injuries yet, but now that we have a hospital, if we do, they can get taken care of. Needs chain. Alright, so we have no ropes or chains right now, so we can't make a traction bench. That's unfortunate. I don't think I have anyone who's like working on leather or cloth either, which is unfortunate. So I might just have to wait on that, honestly. Unless something got sheared. But I don't know if I even have anyone who can do shearing. Alright, so it either went through or got canceled. So I'm going to make cheese and spin thread while I'm up here. No plans. I'm probably out of bags, but whatever. And you make paste and you press it into liquid, and then that is what you use the rock nuts for, and then you can use that instead of fat to make soap. Oh, God, the liaisons hanging around. The liaisons in particular often seem to be really buggy, and they'll just kind of hang out at your fort longer than they should be. But, you know, what are you going to do? Let's see, do I have a jeweler? No, I do not. Okay. Whew, it is chilly. I hate winter. Gotta be honest, I just hate it. I'm not really a big fan of weather in general, but there's not really like a season that I like. It's more like seasons that I dislike the least. Basically, I like the seasons that are less extreme, you know, like fall and summer-ish. Winter and spring are garbage. But, you know, this is Dwarf Fortress. I'm not here to discuss which season is the best season. Nobody's cut that tree yet. So, I think normally if I started this game differently, I would have had enough wealth created to attract more dwarves by this point. So you can see on the status the total created wealth. The higher that is, like I said earlier, the more attention your fortress attracts, basically, both good and bad. Coughing. Let's see. Getting plenty of ash and charcoal. So I'm going to go ahead and start smelting stuff. Dwarves will often also show up, dwarves with skills that... Actually, I'm not sure if that's true, so I'm going to shut up. Glass furnace. Collect sand. No, I don't have enough bags to do that. And getting cloth and leather going can take a little while because you need to, well, generally speaking anyway. If you're trying to get silk, that can be easier, but silk is kind of dangerous because you collect it from cave spiders, which means you're in a cave, which means there can be bad things there. Also, I think cave spiders, I think they're like normal sized spiders, but I think they might be venomous. I forget. So, you know. But silk is worth a lot. Not a lot more than, like, pigtail cloth, anyway. But we are still trucking along. Let's see. I think I really need to get on these nobles, because I'm really missing having a manager. So I'm going to go ahead and do... They want... The basic noble setup is an armor stand, a weapon rack, 3 doors, if you lay out the rooms the way I did, 2 coffers, a bed, a cabinet, 2 tables, and 2 chairs, but I'm going to have to wait for those. And then the nobles need a bedroom, a dining room, and a office, and those all need to be of a particular quality. So I tend to spread out the like coffers and cabinet and all that stuff between the rooms to try and get them all at a similar enough value that then I can just kind of throw stuff to get it up the rest amount of value it needs to be. Weird sentences. Dwarf Fortress, I think, and this is kind of, I feel like, just an aspect of, like, waiting games like this where, I guess just slower paced games that I always find relaxing, because, like, there is some time-relevant mechanics, like getting migrants and being attacked and stuff like that, but... For the most part, you can just kind of go at your own speed and do stuff as fast or as slow as you want. Obviously, if you do things that dwarves don't like, then that can cause problems, but the reason... I think I explained this already, but it bears repeating if you're unfamiliar with it, but the tantrum spiral is when a dwarf gets so unhappy that it... there's a lot of things it can do. It can like start fights, it can get depressed, which can lead to it committing suicide and things like that, and then that makes another dwarf upset. Luckily, though, as I think I also already said, the emotions got overhauled recently, and now they go up and down a lot slower, so it's a lot easier to catch that stuff before it happens. Although it can still happen. Obviously, it just, you know, has to build up a little bit of momentum, which I guess, in a way, makes it harder to come back from, but, you know. That's another nice thing about Dwarf Therapist is in the list of all the dwarves, it also shows how happy they are. Because right now it'd be kind of hard for me to get a bead on the general happiness. I just have to start looking at people. Like, this guy, let's look at how happy he is. He felt satisfied, which is pretty good. I forget what the levels are exactly, but... so this is how you kind of figure out how happy your dwarves are and what you may or may not to do. He felt self-pity after being away from his family too long, self-pity after being away from his friends, dejected after being unable to pray. Okay, I need to set up a temple too, that's right. He felt euphoric due to inebriation. He didn't feel anything after seeing the Wolverine die. So this is kind of a bunch of things that have happened recently that are affecting his mood. He's a worshiper of Nulthang Filth Crypts. That's a pretty metal god name, not gonna lie. I'd worship that god. Armor of Glazing, member of the Greatest Channel. That's the fortress. And totally accidentally self-indulgent. He arrived. He's 60 years old. He has incredible muscles. He is tough and mighty, so he would have made a good soldier. But there's a lot of good info on here. Because dwarves have a lot of little knobs and dials that get adjusted in different ways. So he's pretty alright. Let's look at this guy. He was... Okay, she seems pretty alright as well. I think I was reading the wrong thing. This is a relatively new set of things. And dwarves also have things they like and dislike, so that's fun. Some of those have some interesting tags associated with them. Let's look at this guy. He feels satisfied at work. So it seems like we're doing pretty alright. Frustrated after a lack of decent meals. He was angry after getting into an argument. Oh no. But it looks like we're doing pretty decent. 3 or 4 dwarves is not a good sample size, but it at least gives me some information. Alright, so someone wants better meals, so how much food do I have? I think I'll probably want decent. Yeah, probably. Or fine, rather. The middle one. How many drinks do I have? Yeah, I might as well make some more. It's always good to have more drinks. Preparing fish. Alright, so that should get some meals going. What was the other thing? Ah, temple. Right. Alright. Let us... Where am I going to put a temple? Ah, I can put it down here. Let's keep the 3 hallway thing going on, and probably want some more statues for that too. The way temples work basically is actually I'll have to do it. The whole temples, libraries, and inn/bars are a relatively new thing, and I know how to do them, but not well enough that I can just explain it off the top of my head. I kind of have to like go through the motions a little bit. I need one more throne too. But you can make a kind of general temple that anyone can worship at. And that will give dwarves happy thoughts because they will be able to worship the god they like. And you can also do ones to specific deities. And you can actually also go into Legends mode and look up the deities as well. And one thing you can do if you want to get into Legends mode without nuking your save, because obviously you could retire it and come back, but you can also just save your game and then copy your save folder, which is I think it's just in the root of Dwarf Fortress, and then it's save, and then they're listed as region 1, region 2, region 3, etc., which is what it says when you load from it. If you copy that out and then either abandon or retire it, you can go into Legends, and then that backup you made, you can go back in and copy it over and go back to playing without having to abandon or retire. And now you can look at Legends and stuff, which I might do at some point. Who knows? Okay, so that's going to be a little while, I think, because this fort is staying kind of on the small side. But I am fairly happy with how busy I'm keeping them, I think. Yeah. At some point, too, I did not bring a trainer, so I don't have an animal trainer. But if I did, I would set out some cage traps and try to catch some animals. Because you can train animals and domesticate them, and that's a fun thing I like to do because when the liaison shows up, the dwarves will share their knowledge of how to train animals, and you can actually teach the entire civilization how to train more animals that way. I think it would take I think it would be unreasonable to expect to be able to take them from embark from anywhere, because it would take I think a really long time for them to actually get a hold of them, but it's a thing. It's kind of weird what animals are allowed to do what as well. Dogs can be trained for war or hunting, and that's kind of unique to them and a couple of other animals, I think. Unless you go in and edit the files, which is a whole thing. Modding Dwarf Fortress is actually really easy because of the way it's set up. It's kind of, just like the game itself, built upon layers of systems interacting with each other, I think at the basic level, the game has definitions for what things are, like bones and muscles and skin and stuff, and then it makes a finger out of so many joints and the skin and the bones and the muscles, and then it makes a hand out of so many fingers, and it makes an arm, and then it makes a person out of arms and legs and feet and heads and eyes and all the parts put together, and then it makes a civilization out of a race that has appropriate tags, and there's all these tags for the races and da-da-da. And it just kind of builds on itself like that. So it's really easy, actually, if you start looking at it, to figure out how to mess with it. And there's some programs that you can use for that as well. There's some interesting mods out there. It's definitely worth a look if you're interested in it. But I really enjoy vanilla Dwarf Fortress. I think it's really great. And a lot of mods, I feel like, kind of don't quite follow the spirit of Dwarf Fortress. Ooh, Masterpiece Throne, that's nice. I'll probably put that in a noble's quarters somewhere, so that'll make the value of the room really high. But, I'm one of those people that's always, I don't tend to get super into modding stuff. Unless it's, like a Bethesda game or something, in which case you kind of have to, or it has problems. But you can check out my Skyrim video if you want to know more about that. Yeah, self-plugs. Alright, so I think I'm going to wrap it up about now. But one thing I want to mention is, and I think I said this at the beginning of the Dark Souls series or something, is I don't like to constantly ask for people to like videos or subscribe. I feel like if you like my stuff and you want to see more of it, you'll subscribe, and if you like my videos, you'll like them. But I do want to mention it now and then just to remind people, because apparently that works really well, because that's what the popular people do, and that's what everybody tells you to do. So why am I closing this? But anyway, yeah, if you would like to see more of this series as it comes out, please subscribe, and if you think my videos deserve it, give them a like or a dislike or a thumbs up or a thumbs down or whatever they're called. But as always, I hope you learned something new, and I am the Wizard of What, and I hope to see you next time.